and welcome to Speak a Dogcast. My name is David Farb, Animal Behavior Specialist, and I am broadcasting from WOUF Wolf Studios in beautiful Palm City, Florida. Thank you so much for joining me again today. If you haven't clicked that subscribe or that follow button, do so right now. New episodes come out every Wednesday, and you're going to want to check them out. You can also follow me on Instagram at Speak a Dogcast, and if the visual thing is more your thing, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Speak a Dogcast, and if you want to support the show even further, you can become a patron of the show today, patreon.com/speakadogcast. If you love the show, if you love the podcast, if you love what you're hearing, do me a favor, scroll on down, give me that 5-star rating or leave me a review. I would really appreciate it. Yes. Now on today's show, we are going to be talking about aggression in dogs. Not always the most fun topic. It's not something we want to see in dogs, but unfortunately, these things do arise and we have to deal with them. So we're going to be talking about how to deal with that a bit. Then we have a segment on pet insurance. Always a hot topic. Should I get insurance for my pet? Shouldn't I? I'll tell you the pros and the cons of pet insurance, yes. Then we have the History of Animal Mascots 101, followed by the listener Q&A. If you have any questions for the listener Q&A, you can email me, questions@speakadogcast.com, or message me on social media. Your question could get featured on the show, yes. Now, before we get going with today's podcast, got to give you that trivia question. Today's question is going to be, how many bones do sharks have? Yes, how many bones do sharks have? I will give you that answer to the question somewhere in today's show. Be sure you stick around, sit, stay, and enjoy the podcast. Next on Speak a Dogcast, aggression in dogs. Now, obviously, this can be a tough subject. We're talking about aggression or aggression tendencies in dogs. And so, yeah, this is tough. Look, the first thing we have to note is that I'm just, full-blown honesty here, guys. The average owner is not equipped, whether it be through knowledge or just experience, time, and maybe not the right tools. The average owner is just not equipped to deal with a lot of these aggression tendency issues. And so the first thing I have to say to everybody out there is if you have a dog at home that has aggressive tendency issues, please seek the help of an experienced, knowledgeable professional. Aggression is never something to be taken lightly, no matter what the issue is. No matter how small you might think the problem is, I can guarantee you the problem's probably worse than you realize. So please, 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 get a professional in your life. Get a professional in your home in assessing your dog. Let's make sure we're making smart decisions here, guys. Once again, aggressive tendencies, it's not something to be taken lightly. It can snowball very quickly out of control if you don't know what you're doing. And I don't want you guys making mistakes. I want you to stay safe, your dogs to stay safe, stay safe. Of course, everybody else as well. So please make smart decisions. Always reach out to a professional when in doubt, and especially reach out to professional trainers, behavior specialists when it comes to aggression and aggression tendencies with your dogs. With that said, let's talk a little bit about this. Now, we're going to make the kind of distinction between aggression in dogs, an aggressive dog, a truly aggressive dog, versus aggression tendencies in dogs. Okay. We're also going to talk about things you guys can do to maybe minimize triggers for your dogs, minimize those instances that you might find yourself in a moment where your dog can be aggressive, and how to maybe try to bring some of that aggressive energy down. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that distinction. Now, look, thank goodness, guys, a truly, truly, truly aggressive dog is such a far and few in between thing when it comes to dog training. You're not going to see truly aggressive dogs every day of your life, okay? When we talk about a truly aggressive dog, what we're talking about is a dog that does not necessarily need provocation or any kind of trigger to find themselves in that aggressive state. These type of dogs tend to live in a 365-day-a-year fight and flight, tending to lean on the fight, obviously, side, in that mentality all the time, 24/7. They don't need someone to reach into their food bowl to get aggressive. They're just going to get aggressive at you. Now, again, thank goodness this is such a small, minute, just tiny percentage of dogs out there that are truly that aggressive. So that's the first thing. Second thing is going to be the aggressive tendencies, right? We have aggressive dogs and we have aggressive tendency dogs. That's going to be possessiveness. Whether they get possessive over food, toys, people. Maybe they just don't like other dogs. Maybe they don't like people. Maybe they don't like this. Maybe it takes the doorbell ringing. Maybe it takes somebody walking by the house for the dog to get aggressive. Whatever the case may be, you can clearly hear there has to be this specific circumstance, trigger, stimulus, or provocation that creates that aggressive mode, that fight and flight mode, and sends them into it. So we have to understand there is a big distinction between the two. Aggressive tendencies are a lot easier to deal with. Still difficult, still need to be knowledgeable and experienced, but they are much easier to deal with than a truly, truly aggressive dog. Okay, so making that distinction to start off with, that most of you out there are going to be dealing with the aggressive tendency side. And there is good news. We can fix these things, but they're not always pretty. All right, look, in order to fix aggressive behaviors, in some ways the aggression has to come out. Not pretty, because we have to be able to tell the dog, hey, stop doing that. And if they're not doing it, I can't tell them to stop doing it. I can't just go, hey, doggy, do me a favor. Hey, when that dog comes that you don't like, do me a favor, just don't react to him, right? He's, oh, yeah, cool. Okay, I understand that. No, it doesn't work that way, does it? No, the behavior actually has to come out for us to be able to correct and redirect it, for us to be able to give the dog a different behavioral option in that moment. But if we never set it up, if we never create that moment where they get aggressive, where they have that tendency, well, it's very hard to create a new behavior then now, isn't it? It's very hard to give them a different option if it doesn't happen. Because look, and I'm not saying they're 100% wrong. The example I'm going to give here, I'm not saying the average dog owner is necessarily wrong here, but y'all know what I'm talking about. If you have an aggressive an aggressive tendency dog out there, you know exactly what I'm saying. You try to avoid those circumstances, don't you? You try to not go near that dog your dog doesn't like. You try to not feed your dog in front of people because he gets aggressive. You try to make sure your dog is fed in a different room if your friend's dog is over. You try to put all the toys away if you know your friend's dogs are coming over because your dog is fine unless the toys come. We try to prevent these issues from happening, and that's not necessarily wrong, right? Like, that is one way we can talk about. That's the first thing we're going to talk about in minimizing these aggressive tendencies. One way that's going to minimize the tendencies is getting rid of the stimulus, getting rid of that triggering stimulus that triggers the dog's aggression to begin with. Is that going to fix your problem? No. And that's the thing. It's a Band-Aid solution. It fixes it short term. It keeps everybody safe. It's not necessarily the wrong decision. You see what I'm saying here? It's a good decision in certain circumstances. Okay, if you don't know how to go about fixing these problems, then yes, minimizing the stimulus, minimizing the trigger that's going to cause the aggressive tendency is going to be a good thing, right? Obviously, I can't argue with that. At the same time, if we never teach our dogs to deal with that stimulus eventually, at some point, well, it's pretty obvious they're never going to learn to deal with it at some point, right? Like, that's pretty black and white. It should seem pretty simple when you think about it. If I never put the stimulus out there, David, my dog never gets in trouble. True, but what happens when the stimulus gets out there and you don't have control over it? Then what? What happens when your dog has an aggressive dog tendency and somebody accidentally leaves the door open? And there's a neighbor's dog is running by. As a matter of fact, some gentleman I spoke to the other day told me a story about this with his own dog. It literally happened. He mauled that dog, guys. His dog mauled the other dog. Not good stuff. This is not a client of mine, for the record. Not a client, just somebody I was talking to. He didn't know what I did for a living. I didn't want to say it. That was a past instance. It's funny, but it's also really not funny, and that's the sad part of it. Man, like, that's just it. Like, aggression is one of these things where it stinks. Because in order to fix it, like, we have to bring the behavior out. But in order to minimize people getting hurt and dogs getting hurt, we have to keep all the stimulus away. This is why it's important that you hire a trainer, guys. This is why it's important that you hire a behavior specialist, someone that has experience and knowledge dealing with these types of things. Because once we finally do need to introduce your dog to these things, it's a very delicate process. Let's just say that. It's a very delicate process. All right? So, yes, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the help you need, the first thing you need to do is minimize the amount of triggers and stimulus that your dog does react to. Okay. One of the next things is really just kind of a safety thing, and it's so important, and I think it's such an underutilized tool. I've talked about it before. A muzzle. A muzzle is such an underutilized tool when it comes to aggressive dogs. Look, back in the day when I first started and I was a lot more pompous and arrogant about it, I was, you shouldn't have to use a muzzle, blah, 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 muzzles, you get how are you fixing it? How do you know if you're fixing it if you're just putting a muzzle on the dog? And look, that was when I was young and dumb. I know better now. Thank goodness, knock on wood, never had an incident where I was like, man, I wish I had a muzzle on that dog. It was just that I wised up and realized a muzzle can be a wonderful tool. Look, again, it's about prevention. It's sort of, a muzzle is a way to minimize casualty without minimizing stimulus, right? It's the next step. We take all the stimulus away to start with to gain some control, work with our dog. And then once I feel like I can work with the dog, they learn how to redirect, they learn how to focus. We have some leash work under control. Then we try to bring the stimulus back in. But if a stimulus can be dangerous, like for example, it's another dog that your dog gets aggressive with another dog. If I have a dog that gets aggressive with other dogs, one of the safest ways to introduce another dog is going to be putting that aggressive dog on a damn muzzle. Like, this is not rocket science here. That's going to keep everybody safe with allowing us to introduce our dog to the stimulus that gets him aggressive. Why would we be against that? Muzzles are a wonderful thing. They just have a horrible visual to them. And it's silly. It's silly, guys, because as I've taught you guys on this podcast over and over again, it's all how you condition it. It's all how you condition the muzzle and what it means to them. We're not getting into the details of how to condition a muzzle today. It's just one of these things that you've got to use it if you have an aggressive tendency dog. Okay? Oftentimes, too, what you will find is what you're doing when you put a muzzle on. Not only are you keeping everybody safe, but you're actually shutting down the option of biting. If you have the muzzle properly on your dog and you're using the proper muzzle, you're taking away the option of biting. And in doing so, a lot of times with an aggressive dog, just taking away that option, all of a sudden the dog goes, crap, I can't bite anymore. Now what? Maybe I'll try not biting. Maybe I'll try not lunging after that dog. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we have a different behavior other than trying to attack a dog. That's progress, people. That's a behavior I can now reinforce. That's a behavior I can now strengthen. And we're weakening the aggressive tendency, the lunging toward the other dog. I don't care how small of a success it is. If that muzzle minimized that dog's mentality of maybe I should go attack that dog too, maybe I shouldn't, that's a win, people. That's a giant, huge win when it comes to dealing with aggressive tendencies. So muzzles are one of these things where it's going to be your best friend if you know how to use it. Okay? Now, it's tough. Look, guys, this is one of these things where I go back and forth on how much information I really want to give you when it comes to aggression through a podcast, because it is a touchy, careful thing. And I think when it really comes down to it, it can be simplified in just these two things right here. We are minimizing the amount of stimulus to not overstimulate or oversend our dog into a fight or flight mode. That's where it has to start, minimizing the stimulus, and then a reintroduction to the stimulus with the ability to guide and direct. You see what I'm saying? If I don't have the ability to guide and direct before we go in to the, introducing that aggressive stimuli, you're already losing. So the third thing I'm going to tell you, the first thing I was saying is minimize stimulus toward the aggressive tendencies. Second thing is a muzzle is going to be your best friend. And the third thing is going to be, before we can reintroduce the aggressive stimulus, the third thing is going to be working on focus. I kind of brushed over it. Working on focus and leash control before we get into the stimulus that's going to make your dog potentially aggressive. Where does this start? It starts with basics, guys. Real basic stuff. I've talked about the kissy noise exercise before. Kissy noise, make the kissy noise. Treat up to the chin, create eye contact with your dog, create focus and reward. Okay, very simple. Very, very simple. Because we need to be able to control your dog's focus. We have to think of it, when your dog goes into an aggressive tendency, they go 0 to 60. Their brain goes, boom, 0 to 60 into that aggression. And if you haven't patterned a way to redirect that focus ahead of time, then once they're 60 miles an hour, forget it. There's no hope of slowing that brain back down if you haven't practiced slowing the brain down. So again, that third thing is starting to work on creating very basic training when it comes to focus, listening, direction, and leash work with your dog. If you're not practicing these things without the stimulus around, there's no hope once we reintroduce. Okay, so that's kind of where fixing aggression starts. It does have to start with minimizing the aggression, minimizing the stimulus that's going to create the aggression in your dog. Okay, but we also have to start with creating the focus simultaneously while minimizing all those stimulus. We're creating focus, working on leash work, working on taking those baby steps toward keeping control. Once we feel like we have some control, we have some redirection capabilities, we have some focus, we try to slowly and minimally reintroduce those tendencies, the stimulus, reintroduce the stimulus, the triggers, the things that create the aggressive tendencies, and we try to redirect our dogs away from it. Create a different option for your dog. Most dogs with aggressive tendencies, look, guys, they get stuck at it. They think they only have this one option. They've practiced that one option. For whatever reason, they've gotten something out of that one option, and so they think they need to do it again. There's a heightened state of mind, anxiety that goes along with it, and before you know it, they get so stuck at it, it amplifies and it turns into this aggressive mess. So one thing that owners really don't focus on is teaching your dog, giving them a different option in those moments. Like, if we don't give them another option, what can we expect them to do but just do it again? Do the wrong thing over and over, right? So, look, this is what it takes to fix aggression. Again, minimize stimulus and triggers to begin with. Then we have to start with creating some focus and working on some basics. Then we have to reintroduce the stimuli in a safe way, and that's where our muzzle is going to come in. Our professional help is going to come in. One other thing we can also do, if we have a pretty aggressive dog, and I've done this a few times over the years where the dog aggression can be people-based as well, sometimes it's a good option to put 2 leashes on a dog when we're working them. Have 2 people walking them to start with. That way we can create control pulling in left direction, right direction safely and keep the dog away from ourselves if we need to, other people. That's kind of a little more of an advanced step, but 2 leashes can be an option. 2 leashes, even 2 collars or a harness and a leash. This is where a harness can sometimes come into play, guys. Again, I don't recommend using harnesses to walk or train your dogs unless you have a very, very, very specific purpose or need for that harness, such as needing some secondary pulling device when we're working with something as specific as aggression or aggression tendencies. So that's another one I can throw out there. But to me, the muzzle is going to be one of the best things to introduce you to your dog, one of the best tools. But again, guys, just going to say it one more time. Please make sure you reach out to a professional. I can't stress it enough. Like any other issue you're having with dog training, whatever. But when it comes to aggression tendencies, please don't mess around. Don't think you can fix it and end up making it worse. Please contact a reputable professional. So good luck out there. Stay safe. Make smart decisions when it comes to training and fixing aggressive tendencies with your dogs. And please contact a professional. Are you tired of your dog barking all the time? Or maybe you want them to stop jumping on people when they come over? Or does your dog take you for a walk instead of the other way around? Well, we can help. At the Nature of Training and Speak a Dogcast, we are committed to improving the relationships and lives people have with their pets. No matter what behavioral issue you are experiencing, from an unruly puppy to more severe issues, we can help. Our virtual training programs are catered to you and your pet and create a training plan that gets results. For more information, you can check out our website at www.thenatureoftraining.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram at Speak a Dogcast. With the ability to connect, teach, and train with pet owners around the world, together we can make a better home for our furry friends. The Nature of Training and Speak a Dogcast, helping you achieve success with your pet. Next on Speak a Dogcast, pet insurance. Got this question quite a few times over the years. Should I get pet insurance for my dogs? And look, I've got 4 dogs. Used to have a cat. It's weird. I'm having to stop myself from saying that. It's been how many years? Literally like 18 years I said I had a cat, and now it's okay, stop. I'm sorry, I miss her. It's been tough. So pet insurance is one of these things where it's, again, I've got 4 dogs now. I have a lot of animals. I've had a lot of animals over the years, and I've never had pet insurance. I haven't. And there's a lot of reasons why. And I'll give you all my reasons that I don't have it. Look, I'm sure for some of you, pet insurance might benefit you. But what I do recommend is doing the math. Really sitting down and crunching the numbers. Look at how much you spend on average at your vet office yearly, and look at what you're going to spend on pet insurance. Now, I can hear I can hear it, because one of the biggest things that I get is, well, David, what if there's a big surgery? What if my dog needs a $3,000? Well, I'm probably in the clouds now. What if a $4,000 surgery? The way everything costs, and it's $4,000 out of nowhere, out of pocket. What do I do? Isn't that where the insurance can be great? And the answer is, yeah, it can be. It could be. It might be. It possibly might be. But it's really great? Setting aside $10 a month in an interest-bearing account and letting that gain some money. I mean, I know it's not going to make you a millionaire, but for crying out loud, I find it's better than throwing it away to insurance because, well, you're throwing it away to nothing, and it's also for something that may not cover it. Look, insurance for people is hard enough as it is, right? Navigating insurance, health insurance, life insurance, all the homeowners insurance, all the different car insurance, all the different things that insurance companies don't want to cover. And there's a reason. They can't cover everything. If they literally covered every single thing, they'd go bankrupt. Like, that's how insurance works. It's a pool of money. It's an average, and how often and how risky and blah, 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 right? This isn't an insurance lesson today, but I'll be honest, guys, if you don't understand truly how insurance works, I highly recommend you do some research. It's very important you be knowledgeable about these things you're going to be spending money on. Crazy thought with the internet and everything nowadays that maybe you could do some Googling. All right. So getting back to it. Look, my biggest gripe is I'll just tell you right off the bat, my biggest gripe with pet insurance is it's 2 things. The first thing is, a lot of times you have to pay up front anyway. You heard me right. You have to pay up front with a lot of these not all of them, but with a lot of these pet insurances, you still have to pay out of pocket up front. So if you're still paying out of pocket up front, and it could potentially take you weeks to get a check from the insurance company, I mean, I don't know how much that's really going to help. You know what I mean? Like, you're still upfronting thousands of dollars of cost right then and there. So if you had some savings ready to go, you could at least cut that cost and maybe wait for But then there's also no guarantee with a lot of these things that the insurance will approve. And a lot of times you have to go through the process first, get the procedure done, and then submit it to the insurance. And then they'll be like, no, we're not gonna cover that. I've heard that. I've heard this happen. So this is where I question, is it really worth it for the unknown procedure? Or is it better that you put aside a little money? And I can hear, well, David, not all of us have that money to put aside. Guys, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but if you don't have $10 to put aside a month for your pet, then how are you going to pay the monthly insurance bill? See what I'm saying here? And again, I mean this in the nicest way possible because I'm trying to look out for the betterment of the animal and yourself. Don't bankrupt yourself over a pet, guys. It's not worth it. Like, it's worth it. I love animals. Don't get me wrong. But like, guys, come on. The logic side of you, the brain inside of you should go, no, I should not bankrupt myself to have a pet. If you don't already have said pet, don't go out and get it if you can't afford it. I mean that in the nicest way possible, guys. You should never buy things you can't afford. It's just that simple. It doesn't matter what it is. All right? Especially nowadays, right? The cost of everything is insane. Have you seen the cost of pet food? Yes, because you're listening to my podcast, you probably have a dog. All right? So it's one of these things where I go, look, if you can afford to pay for pet insurance, then what? Just put that money away. Put it in some savings. Like, that's just my 2 cents on the pet insurance. Is you most likely are going to be paying up front, and then on top of it, the second thing, they may not even cover what you need them to cover to begin with. How is that really helping? What I will say is there is the the Care Credit Card. That one I see as a benefit. Now, do be careful again, guys. Credit cards, let's not be silly. Let's not be dumb. There is still going to be interest if you're not paying the payments on time. But this care credit, this pet card, essentially it's a pet credit card. And basically you can use it for something like a surgery. My wife and I used this years ago when we did not have a lot of money and we needed to pay for this. I mean, if we could have paid up front for that surgery that Penny needed, but it was a lot easier to do it this way. This care credit card, I believe this was so long ago now, I believe we paid 4 monthly payments. It split them up into 4 equal payments with 0 interest as long as we paid it off in those 4 equal payments in the 4 months. And boom, no interest, interest-free, made it a lot more palatable for us. No insurance, no monthly fees, no interest, no BS. Right to the point. I love it. I'm an advocate for that one. But you have to pay it on time. You have to pay it in full each month. You have to be smart and responsible and know if you can afford it. All right? Don't be silly because your interest rates will kill you, especially on a $4,000 surgery. All right? So something to consider. That's really my 2 cents. I personally would rather someone go use the credit card responsibly, if they can do that, than waste all the money on insurance. Because guys, you could go 8 years potentially. You could pay for that. You might pay for a surgery before you ever use the insurance, right? Like you might pay that in the payments for insurance. So that's just my 2 cents on pet insurance. I think there are better ways to go about it. Also, with that said, like my veterinarian has a wonderful, wonderful program where you sign up for it and basically you pay, I don't remember X amount a year. I don't remember the exact amount off the top of my head, but essentially you pay X amount a year and you can pay either up front or monthly payments. If you pay up front, you save a little bit, right? Like I love it. And you get your shots, you get unlimited. You don't have to pay for vet visits. You can bring your pet in anytime for a vet visit and you don't pay a vet visit fee, but it pays for shots. It pays for screenings, blood work, twice a year. I mean, it's awesome. It's fantastic. And a lot of your veterinarians out there might actually run programs similar to this. So it's something worth asking and talking to your veterinarian about because I love it. It really saves us a lot of money every year on the pets. And I don't have to mess with the crazy insurance stuff. And better yet, I'm supporting my local veterinarian by this program instead of some giant insurance company. Now, one other thing I want to mention, speaking of giant insurance companies, us Floridians know about that. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you about homeowners insurance here. I think it's going to get better soon. God, I hope. It's gotten out of control, guys. It's insane. Like I think we've had 2 or 3 different insurance companies in the past few years go, we're not covering you anymore because you're in Florida. So good luck. Find somebody new. And then you go and try to find 10 companies and 9 out of 10 go, no, we're not covering Florida. Good luck. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I don't know if any of you saw an article today. There was an article in many different news outlets about farmers insurance. What is farmers insurance doing? What does that have to do with pet insurance? Well, they used to offer, actually, they still technically do offer pet insurance, but they're dropping 100,000 pet insurance customers from farmers insurance. If you have your pet insurance through Farmers Insurance, you'll be notified. They'll let you know they're dropping you. Trust me. But yeah, they're dropping 100,000. I didn't see any reasoning why, if the company stated any reason, but there's another reason, guys. You paid all this money for insurance over the years, month after month after month, and all of a sudden they don't want to cover you anymore. Yay. Whereas if I had put that $35, $50 a month, whatever it is for insurance, in an interest-bearing account, guess what? I still have that money and I didn't throw it away. Yay. Now, am I anti-insurance? For the record, guys? Absolutely not. I have insurance myself. I have, there are reasons to have insurance, health insurance, life insurance, all these things that you do need where insurance is a helpful thing. I just personally think pet insurance is not maybe one of those things where it is necessary. Just my take, just my 2 cents. Take from it what you want. But hey, what's most important is keeping your pets happy and healthy. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure that's the priority, and then you should have nothing to worry about. Next on Speak of Dogcast, it's the History of Animal Mascots 101. Today, we'll be talking about the University of Nevada, Reno. at the University of Nevada in Reno. They were founded in 1874. The school was the only four-year institution in the state of Nevada until 1965, when the Nevada Southern Campus, now called the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, opened. University of Las Vegas. University of Nevada in Las Vegas. Who thought that's a good idea? A bunch of college students going to school in Las Vegas. That has got to be insanity, but all right. In the late 1890s and early 1900s, the school's sports teams were referred to as the Sage Brushers, or the Sage Hens, after Nevada's state flowering plant, the sagebrush. Now, some media outlets also referred to them as the Sage Warriors, but none of the nicknames stuck, and none of them became official. And somewhere around the 1920s, a sports writer called the Nevada team a pack of wolves. Now, by the late 20s, the student handbook was referring to the athletic teams as the Wolf Pack, with team songs such as the Wolf Pack and Here Comes the Wolf Pack being included in the material. Now, interestingly, the school is actually only one of two universities referring to their teams as the Wolf Pack, with the other team being North Carolina State. Now, although North Carolina State uses the Wolfpack as one word, whereas University of Nevada is going to use it as two words with a capital P, pack. Yes, now the school did not have a costume mascot until 2001 when Alfie was introduced to the pack. Fans actually had a say in naming the new addition, and they decided on Alfie because he is the alpha of Nevada's Wolfpack. Now, they are the wolf pack. It's wolves. There are alpha in the wolves, right? Yes. In 2007, Alfie got a little brother named Wolfie Jr. Now, Wolfie became popular among fans, and he even went on to win the 2012 Capital One Mascot Challenge. Then in 2013, the wolf pack became complete with the addition of Luna, the younger sister of Alfie and Wolfie Jr. The answer to today's trivia question: how many bones do sharks have? None. Yes, it's actually a trick question. No, sharks do not actually have any bones. No, their skeletons are actually made up of cartilage. Yeah, the only part of a shark's skeleton that is not cartilage are their teeth. Next on Speak a Dogcast, it's the listener Q&A. The first question today comes from Tracy from Toronto, Canada. Tracy says, my dog never finishes her meal all the way. Now, she gets kibble mixed with a little bit of wet food, but she always leaves some leftovers. She'll sit and eat for about 2 to 3 minutes, then walk away and not come back. I have to throw away a little bit of food after each meal because she won't come back and get it. Now, I don't want to waste any food, but I don't know how to get her to eat it all either. Tracy, thank you so much for the question. Great question. Now, Tracy, this could be a couple of different things going on here. But what I want you to try, we're going to do a little experiment, Tracy. We're going to have an experiment. I want you to take a little bit of that food away. What I want you to do is measure, or, roughly measure the amount that she leaves left over. I want you to take that amount away from her diet and then just a little bit more, right? So we're actually going to decrease the amount of food that you're feeding her. So I want you to take away whatever she's leaving, that amount, and then just a little bit more for a couple meals, and we're going to see what happens. This is an experiment. We're going to have some fun here. All right. Let's see what she does. Does she finish her meal? Does she not finish her meal? Does she continue to leave leftovers? Because here's the thing. If she continues to leave leftovers after like 3, maybe even 4 meals where you've cut down that diet just a little bit, maybe, and again, you didn't mention what breed she is, but maybe she's a dog with a short snout. Maybe she can't reach the crevices around where the food is getting left in her bowl. I've seen that before. If you take the food and scoot it into the center of the bowl, right when she's done, if you take that food and scoot it, does she continue eating it then? These are questions we have to ask, and this will kind of eliminate whether she is just not hungry or whether maybe she can't access the food, and that's really the problem here. So that's the experiment I want you to do. And then if on the other side of the coin, if she doesn't leave any food and she eats all of it after 3 or 4 meals, every single time she's eating all of it, that tells you the problem right there. Just giving her a little too much food, not a big deal. If your dog is a healthy weight and she looks great, then she may just be getting full. Most dogs will continue to eat, Tracy. You got a good one if that's the case, that knows they're done, and they're done. That's all good. That's cool. So yeah, Tracy, it's not a huge, obviously it's not like a big deal that she's leaving the food. It's a big deal because you don't want to be wasting food. Think of how much money in a year you might be wasting if you have a big dog, right? But yeah, that's what I would say. Cut the diet down, experiment, see what happens. If she continues to leave it, that's telling us maybe she feels like she can't get it or something. Again, can't see her bowl, can't see her food bowl. But if she does eat it all, then maybe you're just giving her a little too much food. So good luck with that. Let me know if you have any more questions. Next question. This comes from Mia from Chicago, Illinois. Mia says, I was thinking about letting my employees bring their dogs to work with them. Now, we're a small business, only with 7 or 8 of us in the office on any given day, but I wanted your opinion on if this is a good idea or not. Mia, awesome question. Look, I love it. I do love, why not? It's one of these things where we can bring our dogs to appropriate settings. An appropriate setting would be if your office invites dogs in, right? Cool. No problem with that. It's your office. Clearly, it sounds like it's your rules. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you. Are there going to be potential issues? You betcha. You're bringing dogs into the workplace. Unless you know and have met every single one of your coworkers or employees' dogs, you aren't going to know necessarily what to expect. And for that matter, you don't know how they're going to react in an office environment. So you do need to be aware some behavioral issues might arise. You need to be prepared for that. What I would love is that if you're going to tell your employees to bring their dogs in, let's encourage our employees to exercise their dogs before they bring them into work to make sure they're nice and tired in a healthy mental state. I know not everybody's going to listen to that, but hell, if 2 of your employees walk their dogs, it's going to help. So that's the first thing, is I would encourage your owners to help put their dogs in a better state of mind before they bring them in by exercising them and getting them in a better state of mind. Okay. Properly exercised dog is a happy dog. Let's just say that. Okay. The other thing you need to think about is liability and insurance. Yes. Mia, this is an important one. Don't overlook this. God forbid somebody gets bit, somebody's dog chews an electrical wire and electrocutes himself and wants to sue your office. I could think of a slew of things that are horrible that could go wrong, that hopefully won't and most likely won't. But there it is. It's the reality of living in the United States in 2024. Isn't it grand? You have to think about all these horrible things that can happen. So definitely from a liability and insurance standpoint, make sure you're covered. Make sure look, if you might be a small business, but maybe your small business has a company that leases the office to you through your companies that you work with. I've seen situations like that. They could theoretically be liable. So make sure you're talking to all the proper channels before you let everybody bring in their dogs. That's my 2 cents on it. It can be awesome. It can be a great thing if everybody's dogs are well behaved and mind their P's and Q's, but that requires work on the owner's part, your employees, your colleagues' part. So I wish you luck, Mia, and I hope everything does go well, because if it does, that's awesome. And that could be a great thing that everybody can bring their dogs in and enjoy. So, hey, I hope it all works out, and good luck to you. That's going to wrap up the podcast today. Thank you so much for listening in. If you haven't clicked that subscribe or that follow button, do so right now. New episodes come out every Wednesday, and you're going to want to check them out. You can follow me on Instagram at Speak a Dogcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Speak a Dogcast, and if you want to support the show even further, become a patron of the show today, patreon.com/SpeakADogcast. If you love the show, if you love what you're hearing, do me a favor, scroll on down and click that 5-star rating or leave me a review. Yes, I would like to thank my patrons, my pup supporter Regula Wright, and my dog friend Maureen Crossan. Have a wonderful week, and don't forget, get out there and walk your dog.